Thought you'd get me twice. Thought you'd get me another time. 5 by 5, just waiting on the audience to jump in. There's a bit of a lag on the live stream. How are you, friends? How are you getting on this week? Hope you had a fruitful weekend. Hope you had a relaxing time of it with all the incessant nonsense that's being pushed upon us. We will do our best to try and keep you all miserable. Do our level best to keep you all miserable with a touch of giggles along the way. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? But it's all to play for in the ready money round. Where is the chat? There we go, chat. How are we getting on? As we wait for the hottie bastards to join us. Before I begin and before I get off, I might as well get into a little bit of a routine with it all. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to give us a subscription or a like if you like to interact. Towards the end of the show or anywhere or any part of the show, please leave your thoughts, comments, and witticisms in the comment section. I had a lovely interaction with a few of you there on the live stream. Very much, thank you much. Thank you very much for your input and your kind words as always. As the room fills up, we are joined indeed by Flaming Beret, who jumped in at a close second. Karen Burns jumped in with our getting first on the list for the chin wag. I hope it's popping up there. It seems to be popping up on the train. Good, Siobhan joining as well. Good to see you from Wexford. 5 by 5 from Sheepdog. Sheepdog says a big, very good evening to all. All right there, both. John Kelly in the house. Good to see you, Brad. Good to see you. Thanks very much for jumping in and saying hello. And good evening. Who else have we got there? Karen Beavens and Stargirl D. Sorry, Stargirl. Just it's the abbreviation on your new handle. Kind of knocks me for six. Everybody jumping along swimmingly. Okay. Where to begin? Let's just start here from the beginning. When they begin, they begin. Do you find yourself most times in the week, just kind of keeping the facade nice and chill, and like the beautiful elegant swarm on the top end of the lake, just gliding gently across the flat level pond, gracefully and elegantly, trying to avoid migrants in case they trap you up and cut your wings off and eat you or stick you in a kebab, one of the two. But underneath, you're paddling like the devil to try and get away from said traps. This kind of breaks it down a little bit on the video, heavy on the video portion tonight, but we'll get through it. Please enjoy. One more time. Love that beat. Drop it. Losing the run of myself here. Yeah, I just thought we all understand what's going on. I had a great example of that over the weekend there. Got talking to a couple of people and foreign people, whatever, just out and about doing minding my own business. And there are some of Polish, and I think the other person was Ukrainian. I'm not going to mention, but in a secluded sort of place and kind of place where you just go to chill and unwind and spend a bit of quality time alone, meditate, contemplate. But anyway, the conversation struck up, and even amongst the Polish people there as well, wide awake to it. But as I said to you, I find great fulfillment now in the actual one-to-one conversations. As much as I enjoy our streaming and our time together, we've got a quite a sizable portfolio in the background there of streams that we've all done together. But as soon as you give the slightest inkling that you might be aware, I didn't probe any questions. I wasn't looking to engage or to do anything. I was looking for a bit of an hour of solace to myself. But needless to say, spun off in a conversation, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But you give that one person that slight insight that you might be, kind of onto what they're thinking, and floodgates open. People apoplectic at the laissez-faire attitude of the Irish, the way things have gone so bad, and people have been here quite a number of years and putting the work in, and just seeing even people beyond them getting pushed ahead in queues and getting extra benefits, and the two tiers being very much aware to them. One of the people there was, and they might be tuning in tonight as well, quite enthused. There was a little bit of recognition there as well on top, which I found quite amusing as well. But one of the youngest person that was there as well, was quite involved with a couple of our friends on the NGO side and I won't name any particular people, but quite involved with the affluent end of the NGO and the bourgeois um, class of the NGO. And I just asked the pertinent question: well, what was the when did things become apparent to you? When did you kind of like come to your own conclusion that all is not well in Denmark and Denmark stinks and stuff like that? And again, it was the gender recognition stuff and the way people were just people around her that she worked around with or pallied with, kind of slipped up there a little bit, but that they pallied around with were just hell bent on the gender ideology and just started happily mentioning this is after the recognition as well. I was talking about the critical race theory and the gender ideology and stuff like that, and starting to come around to it and seeing the nonsense of it all as well. And I just found it very fulfilling, but just very funny, just the way the conversations, but and everything in any aspect or any rabbit hole wasn't untouched. And I enjoy letting people just to run off to let them feel like they're informing you. Did you know? Did you know? I'm sure we all get it as well. Everybody, we've all been down a certain amount of rabbit holes and stuff like that. And again, seeing it online as well with the new class of people that are coming on board and doing the research on the X Files. That's what we call them, just for abbreviation's sake. And also, seeing the way they're breaking into that, seeing as we've all went through as well, the psychological damage. When the information is being dissected and begin to understood, and the depravity of it all. I don't touch lightly on it or anything of it. As I said, the momentum will build. More and more people are finding out, and it's just a touch of the iceberg. A lot of the revelation of the method sort of stuff as well. I'm seeing that in that they want you to know about what is actually going on, because they want to gauge your reaction, to see what your reaction is. And as it stands, very frustratingly, we're all acutely aware of it. There doesn't seem to be much action on any sort of front. If anything, we are being led down full of throttle now to the World War III and the encroachment of the building of the Third Temple. And I'm seeing many different people on the world stage that you wouldn't suspect. Again, anybody involved in any of that needs to go to the gallows, left, right, pink, white, pick your flavour, choose your flavour, whatever you're having yourself. Anybody that steals the innocent of the innocent deserves to be thrown at the bottom of a lake with a rock tied about their feet and their teeth smashed in of the wicked, type of thing, But I don't know where I was kind of leading off of that. Again, the conversation in day to day. Again, talking with different customers as well, shall we say. And again, the conversation kind of steers back in. I'm still kind of considering myself. I don't consider myself a centrist anymore. I am completely on the right side of the spectrum, or the common sense side of the spectrum, and stuff like that. And stuff that we talk about here and have touched upon here every week, it's crazy to me. We talk about the Black Swan event. Here we are now with oil going through the roof. People now saying we're creeping deliriously on towards €2 per litre. And I think we've already touched and breached that in towards the main city centres and around the country. But folks, the way I'm viewing it, we'll be easily pushing up towards 3, 4 before the end of the year, possibly even 5. From my understanding, as we went through the different ramifications of the Hormuz Strait, and it's the repercussions then the follow on. It's not only the price at the petrol pumps and all that we should be paying particular attention. It's the offset or the repercussions of the oil not being produced, of the force majeure, hence tonight's title, which means that Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, all the oil producing countries are declaring force majeure, that they can't meet their contractual obligations, and oil is going to get ever more scarcely. I think on the last check-in this evening, I think we were at $106 to $107, maybe $108 a barrel. This is the crippling of the short of the supply of the oil and it getting around. But also unaware of that is the production of sulfur and other chemicals that we rely upon. Again, no sulfur, none of the different iron ores or different materials that are needed for functioning society are all running adrift. So the compounding of the straits being shut down, the global shock, the Black Swan event it's going to get worse and worse. And I think the impacts, like the cost of living crisis, the energy crisis, it's all going to compound, and it's going to have to reach a breaking point at some stage, or at some point, possibly in towards the middle or the second quarter of the year, when the results of the first quarter and second quarter start to become apparent, and the stats are out there. But the political, geopolitical, and the economy, the global economy, hurtling towards the pits of hell, the pits of hell, boys and girls, the pits of hell. Anyway, get off that track. Had a little buzz as well. So just thrown into a little stream of consciousness here as well. Bring attention to. I've got a little monologue there from Patrick Quinlan. He of the National Party. He'll break it down in one of his video monologues about the work that they're doing as well. The nationalist voices that I say that are in the system and doing their bit. Gavin Pepper, Maliki. And again, I'm not going to get bogged down by personalities. I'm not going to get bogged down by he said, she said, what if and what aboutery. I'm just saying about the work that they do. I know Gavin is getting on top of his thing. Maliki's been pretty quiet, and I thought we'd give Paul some air time as well, or Patrick. Sorry, it is Patrick Quinlan. Sorry, Patrick. To give them their voice and stuff like that, and the stuff that he's facing in there, and of the bills and bylaws that they're trying to produce and put in. I'll let Patrick explain it as well. But this is a shattering story as well. This is from Daz News on Instagram as well. Kind of started out on TikTok as well. Daz is doing a fucking sterling job for his country first and foremost, but also as a father of an autistic child as well. He is deeply involved and is going through a case himself about the neglect that they're facing. And again, we've got another scoliosis victim, and another victim of the Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, and the uniparties failing in the healthcare system. Another child struggling with scoliosis, with delayed surgeries and in crippling pain. But Daz keeps an eye, as does Paul Nolan, as does Tinker, as does Dublin Moments, who we'll have a little touch on an interview from as well. Loads of different broadcasters out there bringing us what's going on out on the streets, and I thought we could kind of bring it together here to give them a bit of airtime. Well, they get their own airtime as well, but just to kind of bring that story together. Well, what's happening here in the Republic, and again throughout Europe as well, and the disastrous trajectory that we all seem to be on. I'll let Darren speak for you here as well. This is a harrowing, absolutely dreadful case, one among many that have happened during the week. But I'll let Daz here speak for himself.
I did a video about this lady this morning. I'm after getting some really sad news about this lady. Just 2 hours after this picture was taken, when the mental health system dramatically fails, a woman at wit's end sits crying in front of me as I sang. Next, a full naggin of vodka, breaks the bottle and proceeds to cut her wrist right in front of me. I called the emergency services while I tried to stop the bleeding. She simply had enough of life on the streets. She's gone to hospital, but my heart is broken for her. Do you see what this government is doing to the Irish people? This lady couldn't take the suffering no more. She wanted to end her life, and lucky this man was there to save her. But this is Ireland for you, where people are let to die in the street.
Yeah, absolutely shocking. An old pensionable woman, about 68, no care, no family, no nothing. Like, everybody has their own end of story, and we're all going through our troubles as well. And again, as part of the Irish consciousness and what we all do, we all don't like to see anybody suffering. Hence our propensity for socialistic ideas to have that social safety net, which I have no problem with, even as a capitalist. I wouldn't call myself a devout capitalist. I'm more of the Mises Institute and Mises economics, but there's a slight touch of capitalism to it. But this is the failing. This is the failings of successive occupied governments. Each and every doll occupied because they simply drive another narrative that does not and is not at the consent of the Irish people, as we are well aware. Paul, now jumping back over here now to Paul Quinlan, and the very same reason that this poor woman, this poor soul, is left destitute on the streets. And again, it's the Irish community, and Daz bringing this to his attention, that this woman will probably be helped by the Irish people themselves on a personal, not sure any government organisation, because it's not set up for them anymore. But Paul Quinlan, or Patrick, I keep calling him Paul, I don't know why, mate, unbelievable. Patrick Quinlan, just to ring you the type of stuff that he's running as an elected councillor during the last local elections, and has been appointed to Fingal County Council. He floored a motion calling on Fingal County Council to write to the Minister, James Brown TD, who is the Minister for Housing and Local Government and Heritage, insisting that the housing supports, such as the Help to Buy scheme, the local government home loan, vacant property refurbishment grant, first home scheme, rent tax credits, HAP, RAS, cost rental scheme, affordable purchase homes, tenant purchase scheme, social housing to be ring fenced and excluded to all nationals, for all non-Irish nationals from accessing these supports. Now that whole melee of soup salad and that whole list of people, again, part of our problem is that we are hooked on the opiate of government assistance as well. That's how they will have control of it. A huge portent, I would say, and I've said this in many streams previous, a lot of people are very dependent on some assistance from the government. That assistance comes from the exchequer, which is the taxpayer. And the taxpayer is the exchequer. Those of us and all of you that are out there, private or otherwise, paying into the exchequer through your taxation and through whatever Ponzi scheme that they can come up with, like your social security, and all taxation is theft, as we understand. But the working person now, again, I'm going to keep drumming these numbers, is carrying approximately, according to their own figures, 2.6 people. 2.6 people on some sort of welfare, some sort of benefit, but not engaging or contributing to the exchequer, thereby benefiting as well. So there's twice as much going out as there is coming in. Sooner or later, the wheels will come off. Let's have a listen to Paul talking about his filing of the motion and what he is encountering in the councils themselves.
Well, folks, what is happening? Councillor Pádraig Quinlan. Let's jump on and do a very quick video about this little building here this evening. We had a motion floored inside of it. The motion asked for the councillors and the council to write to the Department of Housing and the relevant minister and ask them to ring fence all housing supports. So that's social housing, HAP, RAS, approved housing bodies, first home scheme, Help to Buy scheme, all these schemes that are available to the public, to exclude non-nationals. So I was looking to try and get non-nationals excluded from being able to avail of all of those supports. Not a single councillor would even second the motion to try and debate on the issue, because there is no debate on the issue. It is simply a thing that should not exist inside of Ireland in 2026.
And we're on to number 32, Councillor P. Quinlan, housing supports. And have I a seconder? I don't appear to have a seconder, so we have to move on. Sorry, Councillor Quinlan, there's no seconder. So,
because it's a closed shop, it's very much a closed shop. The squeaks, the knicker drawers, the complete bought out propagandists, they're all in there, and the fact that Paul, Malachy and Gavin even have a voice in there irritates them. Even from the council, the chairman of the council and all like that would be all bought in, or shut them down, or don't give them airtime. Another part of the saving grace is the complete abandonment now of Aintu. I'll finish off that video now in a second as well, with the resignations of some of their councillors and sitting ministers or sitting TDs in the oppositions, or in their opposition as well, are resigning from the party because they can see that it is a one-person party. Peadar Tóibín rules it, and it's one spokesman. As we've always said, and we'll keep repeating it because I've heard it spoken out in the diaspora there, they are Sinn Féin light, nothing more than Sinn Féin light. Their only difference is their pro-life stance. Other than that, they are completely Sinn Féin, and even that is not too much of a separation. I think Peadar would probably allow a 2 or 3 month stay in an abortion, but the way we're steering on now, it's driving straight towards post-birth abortions. I mean, they're already letting letting fetuses die alone on the tables after those that survive the initial procedure. Still shocked when you kind of run through it there as well. Just a quick hello to Kenneth Noel Curran for commenting on the Beardy Torino. Appreciate that. I'll let Paul's video finish out there first, and we'll jump on to the next one.
we go on to number 33, Councillor Quinn.
Foreign nationals should not be allowed to come into this country, land in the country, get a residence in the country, and then go on to the local authority social housing, or apply for a Help to Buy scheme, or first time home scheme, or any of it, or a state mortgage. You do get state mortgages off of these institutions, believe it or not, you can. But yeah, so the motion wasn't seconded, didn't even get to the floor for the debate, because they don't want to debate it, because there is no debate in it, because it should not be happening. But as we saw here today, they're all quite happy for it to continue the way it is continuing, and there is only one party inside of this chamber that is calling out the problem as it is. Government initiated mass immigration, a systematic replacement of our people in real time, and not a single one of them want to talk about it. I do. I love talking about it, because guess what? It's the only real thing that actually matters, because once we become a minority, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. We can debate about things all day long. We can debate about absolutely anything. But if we become a minority, what's the point? Ireland is its people. And without its people, Ireland doesn't exist.
100%, Paul, 100%. And now, as Paul alluded to there as well, it's government, by government's own design, it creates, again, the Hegelian, it creates the problem, it looks for the reaction, and it provides the solution, as it's done in every instance here. But the people are copping on, people are showing their discontent. As I say, I'm speaking again to the 200,000 the disenfranchised as well. The movement, how we get organised and stuff like that. But again, our situation is getting worse and worse as the weeks go by. Not only again with outside factors, what's happening all around the world. Ireland seems to compound itself by opting in. I said to you, many legislations last week are getting pushed through. Seems like the Migration Pact is getting pushed through as well. I do have a little info burst there from Barrister Tracy O'Mahony, who will break it down there, and some of the responses to that as well. But it was, most of this has been in set since the Lisbon Treaty, the second time of voting. Most of these, how shall we say, levels of the insertion now of the Migration Pact, or the refugees, the benefits to refugees, have been started since way back in the Lisbon Treaty. Obviously called different programs, but as they increase, as the demand increased for them, so that they're allowed to expand till we get to what's now known as the Migration Pact, or the Kalergi Plan, to a more common colloquialism. I want to touch on this clown here, Terry Gorey, who is a solicitor of some note and stuff like that. But he did a little. Mick O'Keefe picked him up on this as well. You see his posts and stuff like that. It's a complete body and propagandist. Loves what's going on, profiteering off it at large. Here he's conducting an interview with an Indian lady and showing them and enticing them how to purchase a house and what to look for and how they can help. Many different solicitors are doing, many different immigration solicitors are all doing. High important of them all now, foreign nationals. Kind of makes mention of another news article that dropped in during the week of the surgeon in one of the hospitals here who's actually been convicted of rape for raping a female nurse that was working on the ward alongside from. But I believe that from prosecution to from his first arrest or detain, he was left alone to work within the hospital for a complete year alongside the victim, who was also in the same department, while this was all being processed through. So a huge portent of foreign doctors, foreign nationals, all these doctors and engineers that were important are highly represented on the what's the word? What is the system called again? I'm having a complete brain fart here. On the doctors board or whatever that's bringing them up for cases or for licensing and stuff like that. Having a bit of a brain fart there. I do apologise. I'll go through a little. It probably goes on, but as you can see, he is more and more just enticing foreign nationals and working them through the system. Again, this all needs to be trashed out in the wash. But as Paul points out, we're getting very pivotal to a point where it's all about the numbers, and it always will be about the numbers. That's why I'm purposely focused on engaging and getting to engage the disaffected that are out there, the 60%, the 55%, or the majority that do not engage with the process or will not engage with the process. We have this one last chance coming up to 2029. If we make it, if we can get past 2027, doesn't mean we should take our eyes off what we should be doing and performing our duties and trying to defend ourselves. Let's just keep going with the process. Do I want to play this? I don't want to hear his little mealy mouth voice, but I'll give you the first couple of seconds of it anyway.
Now today in my video I'm joined by Atulya, who's an Indian.
Oh, sorry, just give you the post up there in case you can't read it there. Mick O'Keefe says 30,000, that's how much an Indian family who arrived in Ireland 3 years ago can get from the Irish government to help purchase a house. Irish people are literally going to work to fund our replacement. It's time to wake up, folks. Seriously.
Lady who has just recently bought a house there in, well, not too far away. She'll tell us herself. And I thought it would be useful if I just asked her some questions about the process and about her experience.
I'm just leaving Paul Fitzsimon's quote there on the bottom as well. I forgot to mention Citizen Journalist, another podcast as well, Paul Fitzsimon's as well, out there.
And so on. So it should be useful for anybody who's considering buying a house, especially a new house, but obviously it may be helpful as well to people buying a second-hand house. So Tulia, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself? Are you single, or are you married, or?
Yeah, I'm married, and we moved into Ireland like 3 years back, and due to the rent issues and the increasing in the rent, everything, we started to think about purchasing a home.
Very good.
And we were confused about buying a second-hand home or the first-hand home. But then we finally decided to avail the help to buy scheme and all those stuff. So we.
Again, I'll just cut through the accent there, but she's got a whole plethora of schemes that she can avail to, whereby she can get that 30 grand land, pretty much a deposit on any home, and they will be then fast-tracked and prioritised on any scheme that she does, primarily within 3 years being able to buy a house or getting access to social housing and stuff. Not saying this particular lady here, but what I am saying is the amount of prioritising of foreign nationals over and above Irish people. I mean, I'll remind you, and I'll bring you back to the start of the podcast there, to the poor woman who's destitute out in the streets, no apparent help or no scheme available to help take her off the streets, irregardless of her story, even if her story is one of self-immolation, and I use that word of self-harming, I should say, herself, or whatever the case may be. The state or the state should be there in some way, shape or form to offer sufficient security there to help all. But we're just overburdened with a whole lot of people that we possibly cannot help. I'll get rid of Terry. All I'm saying is that him and the likes of him are out there now promoting it because they see the numbers coming in and they see profit, they see a chance, and fuck everybody else because it's not going to affect them. He's at end stage game, pretty much like myself. But the new migration system is being signed off, and then the last 2 stages of it are being pushed through as well. Like I said to you, that the majority of it has already been pushed through midnight bills, midnight proposals, not at the consent or the behest of the Irish people, and a whole new system that we still, like I said, had the option to setting out or saving ourselves, but it seems the system prioritised or created the problem by allowing fraudulent claims to arrive and not checking passports, not putting papers in, thereby creating a crisis for us then to have to sign on to this EU migration pact. Paddy McKenna posted this out here. The EU migration bill has quietly passed all 5 stages at Dáil Éireann and is currently sits at stage 2 in the Shannon. Simply put, this law will allow any EU country to take in as many migrants as they want and then dispatch them to Ireland by law. This infographic states it all. That's how it will work. Frontline countries like Italy and Greece will do fast-track border screening, and then the asylum process where they'll be shipped, and the relocation of migrants as is supposed to be proportionally pushed out to different countries and asylum seekers, and then a coordination on returns and security at the very bottom. But again, acceptance of asylum seekers, thereby giving financial support and then access to resources and expertise. It is the soft, slow invasion of Ireland. Irlandi. What does that mean? Well, Tracy, as I said, many barristers, and I'll touch on a little comment from Louise McKenna as well. It gives us a quiet insight as well. But Tracy O'Mahony, barrister at chief, and my selection for Attorney General when we turn this ship around as well. Attorney General at large, but one of the first few barristers that has been out from the very start and has not changed their position and speaks only, and is just doing these broadcasts to inform us what stage is next, who's the vote, who along is voting it through, so that we can all keep note. But where are the rest of that class, the lawyers, the solicitors, and all of that? Well, you can see, as from Terry's broadcast, he's out there getting his slice of the cake on the back of other people.
So today, Thursday, the Minister for Justice, Jim O'Callaghan, met with other EU leaders to discuss the implementation of the EU Migration and Asylum Pact. This is a publication that I'm reading off gov.ie, and it states the following. Ministers discussed the use of voluntary and enforced return of migrants with no legal permission to be in the EU and the implementation of the EU Migration and Asylum Pact. Views on a number of migration-related issues were exchanged, including engagement on transit countries, incentivising voluntary return of migrants with no legal permission to be in the EU, and the implementation of the EU Migration and Asylum Pact. So there were two things that I wanted to say. First of all, you might recall that earlier this year the Irish government set up a scheme whereby they were paying migrants up to €10,000 to self-deport. Now, these were people who had no legal authority to be in this country. So they were setting up schemes to incentivise these people to leave rather than the government deporting them. Jim O'Callaghan is currently in the EU discussing similar measures. That's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say was that Jim O'Callaghan has a comment here in relation to the implementation of the EU Migration and Asylum Pact, just for anybody who thinks this is not going to be steamrolled through. He said, Ireland remains committed to the implementation of the Pact in full, and work is continuing at pace to ensure our readiness by the 12th of June. It is essential that all EU member states implement the Pact in full. The necessary legislation in Ireland, the International Protection Bill 2026, is progressing through the Oireachtas, and it will be enacted and brought into operation in time for the Pact's introduction. That means the 12th of June. So the Pact has already gone through 5 stages in the Dáil and 2 stages in the Seanad. There are 3 stages in the Seanad left, and then it just has to be signed into law by the President, and then the EU Migration Pact becomes law in Ireland. And you might recall from previous videos what this means, amongst other things, is that the EU can set down a quota of migrants that every EU country must take. And if you refuse to take those number of migrants, you have to pay a financial penalty of €20,000 per person that you refuse to take. So this is going to be steamrolled through. It's already gone through 7 stages of the Oireachtas. It has another 3 stages in the Seanad, and then the President to sign it into law. And it has to be operational by the 12th of June.
So can you see the usefulness of our last presidential elections and that they had to get their candidate in that would sign off on this? Because the only obstruction to it, or the only bottleneck or choke point that could have been forced on and taken out of their hands if we'd have got someone that was for Ireland to be in there and to return it to the Supreme Court or whatever, or the Migration Pact, or to refuse to sign the bill, thereby not making the legislation. But we all know they all stand there. And, yeah, what is she saying? Who gives a shit what she's saying? Look at what she's saying. And I'm doing that purely for demonstrative purposes, so that you see it. I'm sure there could be a clip out of that. Look, he was doing it as well. But you know what I mean? All into the agenda. I think when they're vying for it, whoever gets the final position knows that they have a retirement package there for them, and some sort of portent of money that'll be waiting there for them as well. So expect it to go through. What does that mean now with World War III about to kick off? With Iran about to explode, with the forced migration of people now fleeing war again throughout Europe, only have to make it to the borders of Europe, and then they will be transported throughout Europe to different countries and to whatever designation that the Committee of 30 decide to send them to. There, All Ireland will take them up. It reminds me again, time and time again, of the Deagle.com website and why that jumped out and why we were so sort of amused at some of the projections of what that website said. I know most of you will have seen that as well. And I've said it time again, but for the new listeners or whatever like that, the Deagle.com was a business forecasting sort of website. It had a sort of inside line as to why things were happening. And to what I recall, to what I remember of that website and what I've seen of it, most of those predictions or those projections have played the part. But in amongst that projection, or part of that website, was a projected population saturation point of the British Isles. The United Kingdom coming in, they were saying that the land density could hold, or what they're saying would hold, a population of up to 143 million people on the island of the UK. And on ourselves, Deagle.com said we would have a population saturation point of 95 to 99 million in the island of Ireland. Think of what they're expecting to come here. They're turning us into a prison colony. The islands the more separated, I said, they're steering more and more people here to become the prison island. When the Palantir Panoctagon finally kicks in and they're able to place everybody on digital IDs, it won't matter a jot what your political persuasion is or what your political persuasion is either way, or your identity will all just be names and numbers and digits on a card if they get their way. Another part of that process of allowing fraudulent claims, particularly from the males, is, as we've seen in different broadcasts now, they're allowing foreign nationals to gain fast-track citizenship if they join the Defence Forces. The Defence Forces, you can kiss the triple lock neutral goodbye. We are heading towards another major European war emanating and stemming out of Ukraine, and whatever happens to that. If what is being told and is true, that Tomahawks have been provided to the Ukraine with interballistic capabilities that can cross thousands of miles. You can see strikes happening in and around the main centres of Europe, Paris, London, Berlin, being stroked on because the bear will not put up for this nonsense too much longer, i.e. the Russian bear. And Ireland will try as much as itself to inject itself into that, and will stick Irish Defence Forces under the guise of EU blue tit hats that they're going in to do peacekeeping forces, which is an absolute nonsense. So we are building our numbers because I feel there's a land battle coming in ahead of us. Lots of ads for the Defence Forces. And again, you'll see the most, Liz Pepper in the chat there saying lots of ads for the thing. But again, it's a certain portent or a certain identity that is mostly in them ads. Your Caucasians are front and centre, are being requested. Well, we think the flag is, take that flag down. It's not very representative and inclusive. But hey, at the same time, we're going to war. Wear your private flag, you patriots, and jump into the meat grinder. Send your kids off to the meat grinder for dear old Ireland. No. Liz says, my biggest fear is food shortage. Liz, prepare. If you have been following this show, we should all, if we've been doing our bit over the last couple of years, have a small garden on the grow or a small crop to offset what is inevitable, what is coming. If energy is too high, if oil prices go up and hit 110, they'll stop producing because it's not worth their while sending it off. Like I said, the offset ramifications of that is other processes that are inflicted during at the same time after the increase of the oil choking. Will be the different processes that can't go through. Steel manufacturing, fertilizer will be another thing, is another byproduct of the oil refineries and stuff like that. With that oil refinery coming out, fertilizer is going to be in short demand in Europe specifically because India, Asia, they've all taken off the European gas now. Funny little quirk that just came to mind here today as well is that the EU have now signed in and brought into power now that they will not accept any Russian oil. We, on our 21st package of whatever the fuck they're putting down, because the first one wasn't good enough, so they've done it 21 more times. But they're refusing cheap Russian energy, cheap Russian oil. We're not taking it, because they started the war. So what they're doing instead is that oil is being sent to India, and then the EU is going to buy it off India. Same Russian gas, same source, same provider, but we're now going to bring a third middleman into the equation and pay even extra for the fuel, just so we can buy it off India and not buy it straight from Russia. Because, we have standards and we have a empathetic, suicidal bent that we want to displace all our populations all around the world. So there are, as we've always said, tough times are on the way. Somebody has to pay for the pandemic. Somebody has to, fuel prices are rocketing up. But again, in Ireland's particular situation, 65% of that is taxation through the government. And again, one of the transport minister was questioned on that during the week. And he says, well, although that taxation is bedrock for social housing, we start affecting the fuel pump prices. We're going to have to offset those where that money is going. And that's like for social housing, for all the new people that we're bringing in. So you can't really do that. But what I'm saying as well on top of it is they do have room to offset pressure on the economy by reducing that tactic and reducing the demand on the price in the oil with some control. As I understand it, most of the delivery systems are coming through are on just-in-time process, so that the reserves aren't overflowing, that we don't run out per se throughout the country. So most of the deliveries are at a just-in-time sort of process. But again, the price gouging is going to be inevitable, as it has been with the supermarkets and all processes. As the empire collapses and folds in upon itself, it will price gouge the bejango out of everything till it comes to a standstill, which it will. The wheels will come off on all production. Germany is no longer the production epicenter of the European Union because of the Nord Stream and the deprivation of energy to that system. They are now deindustrializing. That means the heart of Europe is deindustrializing. We're taking out productivity out of Europe. So what are we to become? One big giant welfare system is all I can see. So I did say it was Louise that came up with this, Louise McKenna, who I'm following over on Twitter as well. And she posed a question after Tracy's broadcast as well. As what I genuinely cannot understand is why barristers and legal organisations are not calling for a constitutional challenge. The supreme law of this state is Bunrock Naher, and Articles 1 and 6 make it absolutely clear that sovereignty and all powers of government derive from the people of Ireland. Irish law also operates under a presumption of constitutionality, meaning legislation passed by the Oireachtas is assumed to be constitutional unless it is challenged before the courts. But that presumption cannot override the Constitution itself. The Crotty versus An Taoiseach decision confirmed that sovereignty cannot be transferred beyond the people, beyond what the people have authorised, and EU law only operates in Ireland because the Constitution permits it through Article 29. So the simple question is, if policies flowing from the European Union undermine constitutional protections or exceed what the people are authorised, why are barristers not calling for a constitutional challenge? Lawyers have a duty to defend the Constitution. Silence on that question is difficult to understand. And that is exactly the problem. Nobody seems to have faith in the law or the Constitution anymore, or did they ever to begin with? I know how corrupt and evil this system is. One rule for them and another for us. Another question again, why the blue collars aren't out, or why the professional class aren't out, putting in a constitutional challenge. All institutions are captured. We are in occupied territory. We must consider ourselves, those of you tuning in, you must consider yourself the fifth column. We are in occupied territory. We have a government or a regime that does not represent the true wishes of the Irish people, which have time and time again through referendums stated they did not want anchor babies, they did not want forced migration into their pockets, but we have a government that bypassed the will of the people when they constructed and contrived to allow the people to be represented through the, what do they call that thing there, the People's Party, or the little small collection of 50 people that were election. What the hell? The People's Assembly, I think they called it. Nothing would need to be pushed out to referendum. They would have these 50 independent professional class people, as they said, would represent the voices of the people. All of them captured, all of them bought and paid off, all of them assumed to push up these situations which the people never asked for, but the government contrived through the People's Assembly to push it forward so that they could legislate it and bring in what we're all facing now. So the 200,000, you all must start getting activated, and you are. I have a little touch. I have a little video of the flying columns beginning to start to form. What we spoke on last week, the flying columns in and around your local community areas. A group of people that are beginning to organise, come together, not under a banner, but organising and getting, I would say, ballot harvesting, you could call it, or getting activated in their area should the situation come along. But out of necessity, as I've always said, it will always be out of necessity that people will have to come forward because we're right on the very precipice of it. And a situation occurring during the week there in Ballymun, we'll get to that video broadcasted as well. Now, I know I do American broadcasts as well, but this 3D Classic Carpets chat there, there's this little montage as well, but it's in the sense of the Republican. I know we've got some big brains in the audience there as well. You can chew this and give me your thoughts in the comment section there as well. I know I've been touching in with you there, chat, but you've been very busy amongst your help. It's hard to see one or two of your comments. But in the Republican sense, you know, equality, liberté, fraternité, ours is based off the French Constitution, the Irish Constitution, and also the American Constitution. But the way this fella breaks it down as well might give us, again, ties in tandem with why the lack of constitutional challenges and why the need for constitutional challenges. Those of you that are aspiring, you know, on the bigger broadcasts, you know, certain people will have wealth, should be able to proffer up this or engage a barrister at law to start that process. But just have a listen to this, see if it makes any sense to you. I just thought it a little bit fascinating as well.
Everybody wants to know how we can save this country. I got you on this one. Cincinnati. Stick with me, I'll explain. Our founding fathers.
I just wanted to add, I do agree, and if you have been listening to me as well, although I say the absolute ruler of what is about and how things can change is the force doctrine. Those with the will to force their will, either through violent means or through political pressure. The force doctrine as well. And what I've said this country needs, along with we said the prognosis, no, the diagnosis of mass deportations that would alleviate pressure on the housing market, that would alleviate pressure on the welfare system, that would alleviate pressure on the healthcare system by removing people out of the country, which is a necessity. But they're not going to want to do it because I said to you, Deagle.com, they just see apartment blocks, they just see blocks going higher and higher, just building a never-ending metropolis of degeneracy and ghettos. But the soft dictatorship, you mentioned it here as well. I volunteer. Let me tell you, I'm here for it. I'll even put a cap of 2 years. I won't put emergency legislation in after that, but I can get it done. Trust me. Soft dictatorship.
Created our government based around the Roman Republic. Our republic based on the Roman Republic. They just threw in a Bill of Rights and some other protections, but they left some important parts out. The Roman Republic had pretty much everything that we have. Senate, courts, laws, elections, all that shit, right? But instead of a president and a vice president, they had two co-equal presidents known as a proconsul because they didn't fucking trust people. Rightfully so, right? Placing the same power in two men kept things more honest. It eliminated corruption. Slowed down the decision-making process. Great for stopping unnecessary wars, but it's incapable of reacting swiftly and decisively in times of crisis. Rome's solution for this? When shit hit the fan, they would all get together, they'd elect a dictator. Absolute power, no questions. Here's your Cincinnati. In 458 BC, Rome was getting fucked up by some assholes known as the Equii. Rome's shitting their pants, doesn't know what to do, so they elect a farmer named Cincinnatus dictator, and they go out to his field and they find him plowing his field and they're like, dude, we're getting fucked up. These guys are gonna fucking rape and kill us all. What are we gonna do? He's like, I got this. Cincinnatus gathers up his fellow citizens, forms a militia, marches north, kills all the Equii, saves the day. No one in Rome gets raped and murdered. Everybody's happy. He returns to Rome, loved by the people, hero of the Republic, absolute power. He gives it all up, gives the power back to the Senate, goes back to his field, gets it all done in 16 days. Becomes a symbol for honor and service to the Republic, immortalized. Moral of the story, we don't need to elect another president. We need to elect a Cincinnatus to hang all the corrupt Satan-worshipping pedophiles. You're welcome. Good luck, good night, and long live the Republic. Everybody wants to know...
Shut up. Excuse me. Oh, boop, boop. Yeah, so what do you think about that? Like I said, I volunteer for that dangerous task of Cincinnatus Dictatus. I will be your dictator. I'll be your dog. I'll be your dog. What say you, chat? And again, Kenneth also points it out as well. We also have our own jurisdiction, our own jurisprudence of Brehon law, which would immediately, should that dictatorship be brought forward, one of the first protocols I would do would be to remove English, the bar, out of Ireland and replace it with Brehon law. I think my good friend, I can't think of Kevin's second name, who does a online program about the Brehon law as well. But I remember speaking to him a while back as well. The transfer would not be too much of an interruption on our current state of play in regards to legislation and stuff like that. But we would remove English jurisprudence, i.e. the bar, British accreditation, registration, and we would replace it with an updated and modern version of Brehon law, which, as Kenneth also rightly points out as well, would put common law in its place long before that. Heavy metal. Kevin Flanagan, thank you as well, Kevin Flanagan. I do know Kevin. Maybe in the future, if we do get things, if we all survive the oncoming apocalypse, we might get Kevin in for a chin mic afterwards. Wouldn't that be nice if we survive? If we survive the post-apocalyptic dissolution that we all face. Anyway, let's not go down that path. Let's keep ourselves cheery and in high form and high spirits. Do I have anything to cheer up? Well, maybe, as I said to you, the appearance now of the Flying Columns. Dublin Moments giving us a little broadcast here. But again, out of necessity, unfortunately, rather than trying to listen to some of us down the line there speaking out for a time. But we kind of knew, I kind of knew, as I said it to you it'll be out of a necessity that these things will appear, and rightly so. Here they are. Here they come. Let's have a listen to this from Dublin Moments. I'll see if I can get it from the start there. Sorry, let's go. Yep. No, it's a little bit of madness there as well. But there's a small keyhole, a small block of people in one of the social house. One of the houses there is up for grabs, whatever. And people were saying bringing in more foreign nationals, particularly of a Romanian bent. And you can imagine what that kind of special gift would bring to the area and the disruption that would bring. So people are. You can see the community itself all coming out in force and showing themselves, and that is the formation of the flying columns, because it's those interactions when you're out on the street supporting each other that those interactions are made, where you contact, you exchange numbers, you exchange contact details. People can see who is there and who's for and against. You can sort of get an idea in your mind of who around you is with you, in a sort of sense, and that's a very useful thing as well. So the community coming together, great to see the flags out. And again, sorry for the noise, but just kind of let it play out as well. I thought there was some talking along with it as well, but just let it play out.
If there's a housing association in the area, you have to talk to that people. And they have to tell you who the
So we see the citizen journalists out and about again. That's part of what the digital euro, or the digital law, the Digital Service Act is trying to bring out and put upon us, so we can shut down, so people can't broadcast these messages out on their own platforms. Hence the idea of bringing in the digital ID for the under 16s and all of that. It's not about that. It's about them being able to shut down any citizen journalist like that, because you'll see it already with X already having to perform or operate under the guise of the Digital Act. For age verification, you won't be able to get to see anybody's post, because they'll put a blocker about it, because there is no age verification of it. It's another handy way of them shadow banning, or another form of government shadow banning, is for you to prove your identity and stuff like that in order to see the post. So you have the right of free speech, but you don't have the right of free reach, or whatever. I think the way it was phrased earlier on. So something to be aware of. Now, we've talked, I didn't talk on the Islamic problem over here. I'm not going to touch on the two churches. Two churches in Westmeath during the week went up. One is, you can consider it a little bit of an accident, but two in the same location going up. I will only briefly say that we all understand who and what is more likely to blame, or a suspicion would fall on, because the same situation is happening throughout Europe. It is an attack on Christianity. I also made note in my own local region there, having done a bit of work for a bit of family over the weekend as well. My own local church is also hosting and acting as a mosque during the week, and letting adherents of another ideology to go in and pray in there. That is them showing their domination. They'll start be praying in the middle of the street soon as well, causing a nuisance. You can see it now in Henry Street in the middle of town as well, where there are queues and queues of men just queuing up to get access to the underground mosque that's been put in there. Huge interference in the public, but I love it. I love it for the fact that they're out there on public display. It's not them just rocking up in their taxis, parking out like they do in Clonskea and the Muslim Brotherhood Mosque. And you can see all manner of Saudis, princes and Saudi operators are saying, if you don't ban the Muslim Brotherhood on Europe, you are going to have Sharia law before you know it. We did have a brief situation where it got shut down, but it's now currently reoperating and reopened. So with the mass Islamification, the burning of the churches in the week, just another symptom of what's happening. As we allow more and more of those numbers to come in, we're going to see more and more of that happening. But the Irish people don't seem to be impressed or taking upon themselves to defend their heritage, their culture, and their own way of life. But we here, hardy bastards, we will activate them. We will keep shoving the truth in their face. Situations like this as well being reported in the week. Kirk Loco, a big Twitter account over here in the Republic as well, who is also under lawfare as well, just dropped a brief line as well. He seems to be going through certain situation or certain type of lawfare that the Commission in Amman is bringing up against him to try and shut him down for a retweet And I think it's another precedent-setting case, along with Stephen Kerr's arrest. We watch them and we keep monitoring on them. But this being reported here of 5 children who are known to Tulsa die within the first months of 2026. Tragic loss include 1 homicide, 1 suicide, 1 as a result of an accident. What kind and how, no details, and 2 remain unknown. I've said it before and I'll say it again. When the Tulsa scandal is exposed fully, it would likely trigger a hard reset of Ireland, comprehensively outshadowing the Catholic Church abuses when this modern sense of child abuse becomes more more known. Stuttering. Shocking statistic there, 5 children, and again we already know. And as I'll say to you, the rape gang situation is already here and apparent and operating here in Ireland. And most of the cohorts would have been travelling over from UK, because we know 80% of the new documentation or new asylum seekers is coming directly from the north straight down into the Republic, and you'll see a lot more of that as the numbers increase. More and more. What else did I have after that here? It was a critical reason here as well. Just with this brief thought. Let me pop this over here. Furniture keeps moving around. But as I said to you, the power balance, the imbalance, as the government presses its thumb on one side of the scale and pushes it heavily in favour of another people. Critical reason just had this little posit that I thought was useful. Across offices in Ireland, there are 3 30-something tax-paying office workers in a global corp, 1 Indian, 1 Irish and 1 Ukrainian, setting the stage here for 3 people in the same situation, in the same job. 1 Indian, 1 Irish, 1 Ukrainian. The Irish government will reimburse the Indian worker 30,000 of taxes to help them to buy a new house. The Irish government will then pay 600 towards the rent of the Ukrainian worker, but the Irish worker is still living in their parents' house, and that is the reality that we are all facing here. So it is becoming more and more clear to a lot more people of the disparities and the unfairness of it all. But fuck fairness, we have to start taking it back for ourselves, and we need to start operating as we are for our own, under our own volition, for ourselves. And that's kind of like where I'm going to kind of wind it up here, wrap it up here towards the end, folks. Just a quick interlude. But again, last little bit of video here as well, because it's something that's very much on all our minds, is what's happening in the skies above us. Dare we talk about it? Dare we talk about the strontium, the brontium? Sounds like something from the ABC Warriors or something like that. But I've seen this during the week as well, and people get more and more apoplectic about it. And I thought it quite useful. Have a listen to this.
Okay, so this is Ireland being microwaved yesterday on Saturday, the 7th of March. Now, the liars in Met Éireann and the Met Office will have us believe that what we're seeing here is natural and they are mackerel skies and nothing to worry about, all natural. I'm going to show you here now that what we're seeing here is anything but natural cloud cover. We're going to animate this image. We're going to go back to early morning here and just notice how all these frequency ripples remain stationary as the artificial cloud cover sweeps across the country. Just look at all the way from the southwest of Ireland there, all the way up to north of Ireland and the North Sea. Just look. The artificial cloud cover sweeps across the country, yet the frequency ripples remain stationary. Now they remain stationary because the frequencies are being transmitted from stationary transmitters on the ground. So number one culprit there would be HARP in Wales. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Also mobile phone and 5G towers they're using as well. This is all on record. Mainstream weather modification companies like Rain on Request even admit that they're using radio towers to induce rain and manipulate the skies. But just look at that, how blatantly crazy and obvious that is. And also just notice how the cloud cover is tailor-made to fit the coastline all the way around the south of Ireland. Look at that, would be your frequency transmitters on the ground in Ireland, your mobile phone towers all working in tandem with 5G towers and working together to create all of this artificial cloud. Now, we shouldn't have had any cloud at all yesterday. Obviously, this is artificial cloud, but just like the big smoking gun here alone, just in itself would have been, yesterday was high pressure. So we shouldn't have had any cloud cover whatsoever in a high pressure system. should have lovely blue skies with an odd cumulus cloud here and there, but not this. Just unbelievable. But I'm just going to show you this image here now, and if a picture ever painted 1,000 words, I think this really does that. Really illustrates very, very clearly what's going on.
We'll leave that there, as you say. As you can see, you're not the only one. You're not crazy. They already had a meeting over here many moons ago when the head of I think it was geoengineering, and I think it was Pat Rabbitte was the chair. He was Labour at the time, and there was different TD ministers, and they were talking about. He was saying we are going to be experimenting in the skies on weather modification. So they're perfectly well aware of what it's doing. But again, through that video there, you see the sonic waves and how the cloud cover sits. I'm sure that other people will come in and say, oh, there's a perfectly logical reason. It's all the moisture coming up from the mountains, the sea breeze coming in, and the high mountain range pushing the clouds up and forming up above us and stuff like that. But it just sits on the coastline. But the excessive amounts of rain, and we are now also predicted to have a further 72 hours non-stop constant deluge of rain forecast to come within the next week or two. I would say to you that manipulation is to feed the ever-growing data centers over here. Those data centers need to be fed, so they are pummeling us with rainflow, because the AI is just devouring those data centers over here as well. And again, they're like the use of a small village, and domestic supply will probably be paid to offset that demand. I'm sure there's some catchment that they're able to get into the domestic energy grid, and they'll be able to offset that. In the meantime, they will be building their own power plants to supply themselves. But another thing in the future, just to be aware of as well, and I see it, paying attention to it, I think the direction of the large data scales will come to an end pretty soon. I think they will realise that they are making these large buildings on scale, and that they are not sustainable, because they're under their understanding, as I understand it, is the more power. The first thought was that the more power that they're able to give to the data centers, the more powerful that the AI becomes. But that's reading again. It's meeting another choke point. And not to get too technical about it or to over technical about it, but in the RAM sense, and why the domestic market for RAM, for computers and stuff like that, is going through the roof for graphics cards and stuff like that, is because they thought they would, the more power they were able to stick in, the higher computational power that they were able to get. But that's not going to be the case. And the main part of that heat source, or what the main worry of why trying to keep it cool is as it goes through that computational process, it overheats, and it's the cooling process to allow that high computational process to take place that is soaking up the water from our rivers, that is soaking up the energy from our grids all around the world to feed the AI beast. And in amongst that, little bit of self-indulgence here as well, is the transfer from temporary memory to permanent memory, and that is the transfer of heat. When it's doing its computational process, it's going from VRAM to the CPU, the central processing unit, and it's that transfer between the virtual RAM and the actual CPU RAM is the cause of the friction. And the new technology is coming in is that it'll be a single process rather than a dual process, transferring energy between those two ports, that the transaction will be made to a one, thereby reducing the scale, or the enormous scale that is needed for transfers, and it'll be going in the opposite direction, where it'll be scaling down to a minute size. So all these buildings will be, my point being, all of this will become obsolete, because the AI bubble is going to be part of that black swan event, as well as the oil crisis, that they're now beginning to realise that they don't need to build these large data centres, that they need to go in the opposite direction because of this new scientific breakthrough that I think will come true. Don't know why I went through in that little montage. I'm kind of geeked out on it a little bit. I got a little bit geeky on it. Please allow me to indulge myself. But I thought that fascinating, that we're here pumping billions and billions over here to try and build these and give up more and more land. As you understand as well, all these solar panels that are taking over all our lush farmland to offset with this carbon stuff. And now it's becoming apparent that the ground underneath all these solar panels, because they're dripping all sorts of chemicals into the ground, will be destroyed forever and will never produce fruit or be fruitful to produce food as a food source, because all of the shit that's dripping into the soilage underneath is getting crazy. Now, GT, don't you know that all this rain is climate change? Let me touch in with you, chat. And not just touch you, but touch in with you. It's a local DJ sort of expression. Don't get yourself too excited. Let's have a quick chin while we're chatting, and then we'll let you go. Thank you for tuning in for this little hour, this little montage to allow me to get it off my chest, but just to point into you that things are still going swimmingly. The flying columns are beginning to form. People are getting more and more activated, but we are coming towards and galloping towards a very serious situation in the future. As we kind of, state the bleeding obvious, GT, move closer, move your body. Well, I can't think of what I'm saying. I'll just break into a song from now on in, right? Rather than stutter, I'll just break in with a chin mic. Let's have a quick hello to chat, and then I'll let you go. I'll get a quick a roll call from you, if you wouldn't mind. Dark and Disguised from GMO Food. Oh yeah, I'm completely off Big Macs, all of that shit, all of that McDonald's, all of that. I'm not eating humans. I'm just not into it. I don't know about you. Never signed up to be a cannibal, and I'm not into it. Getting very hard to find a cheap and effective food source. I know Liz was saying it there earlier on, but even now coming into things, this is the seed time to start planting seeds. Even if you haven't a fucking clue, get a couple of garlics, get a couple of bit of onions, bit of tomatoes, the easiest one, even if it's indoors. Any small little place that you can start that process. Now is the time to do it. Start planting seeds, and we'll see where it goes towards the end of the year. Colette says there's locusts in the ice cream. I noticed it a few weeks ago. They already brought that legislation that said that they could put crickets into the food source as well. So we've probably been eating them for a dog's age, pretty much like all the meat that already got into the food chain over here as well. All the Brazilian beef. Finola kicking us off straight away. Wait for a few more. So we have your age and your location, if you wouldn't mind. And when I say your age, your actual age, not your birth date, Liz. And again, I know you're born in 92, but you keep freaking me out there saying that you are 92. Red Boar also there. It's good to see you, Red Boar. Thank you for jumping in and saying hello. Alan Bleen as well, to name but a few. Battle Cat, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. Hello. And Kenneth Noel Curran as well. Good to see you again, Kenneth. Thanks for stopping in. Let's see your age and your location, and then we'll sign off and let you go. And we'll jump back in with you again next week. If we're all still here, if the apocalypse hasn't happened, if the bomb hasn't been dropped, or we haven't all drowned in a nuclear tsunami, who knows? Let's not worry about it. Let's just stay in the present. And remember to keep your focus on our Lord and Saviour, Jesus Christ, because that is all that matters. Your relation with Jesus, don't mind all the nonsense. This is all part of the plan, and we're all going home sooner or later. We just have to go through this process to guard our soul and protect our soul. Do the right thing, speak the truth, follow Jesus. That's all you need to know. Don't worry about the church, don't worry about other dogmas, other theologies. Follow Jesus. Jesus is the way. Here ended the lesson. We got Liz Pepper joining us from Tala at 58. Good to see you, Liz. Thank you very much. If Trump was any good, Bill Gates would be in prison. I think Trump will be sitting alongside him pretty soon, at the way things are going as well, by starting this World War III to hide away from the X-Files. We can see it, but we just have to let it play out as well. 1969, like myself. Well then, it's all becoming apparent now. We got Karen Burns joining us from New Jersey at a beautiful age of 66. Thank you for saying. Battle Cat also in the house. Battle Cat joining us from Tel Aviv and is 100 years old. Bling, 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 bling. Let me get that first one up again. Do it again. One more time. We're all going a little bit crazy, aren't we? We're all going a little bit crazy. But sure, you have to have a bit of fun with it as well. Who else is in the house? We have Finola, 101 from Dalmatian Close. Ragnar, good to see you, Ragnar, 54 from Ballymoney. Great to see you. Thanks for saying hello. What else we got there? Kenneth Noel Curran, 74 in York, originally from Belfast, from the Ardyne. Onward and upward, forward where we go one, we go all, walking with God, one wondrous God Almighty. I agree. I know you're jesting, Battle Cat. I appreciate it. I love a good bit of dark humour. Liz Pepper seriously the third. Enniscorthy from HB Wallbanger. Enniscorthy at 77, great age, fine age. A gentle, like a full-bodied wine from the Italian mountains. Who else is there? Colette Dunn, 60, joined us from Wexford. I think we did that one as well already, Colette. People not coughing up or coughing up. We're nearly twins. The two of them all having a chat amongst themselves. Okay, folks. thank you very much for your for joining me on this show, this little stream, this little thing of ours that we do every Monday at 8 o'clock. If you're new to the show, please don't forget to hit us with a like button, and if you could, maybe consider giving us a follow as well, boosting up the numbers. We're trying to smash through the algorithm. We're trying to push our way through to keep bringing this show to you. Just keep speaking it out. Just keep pushing it out there. And also, if you wouldn't mind, please consider leaving your thoughts, comments, and witticisms in the comment section. I do love to engage with you down there and to hear your points of view in the comment section. If I've left anything out, please drop a reminder in there, or consider in the description box down below joining over on Telegram, and we will have a phone call conversation as well. Alan Blaine, 73 from Hysham in Lancashire, 69 from the moon. I don't know what you were saying there. Oh, fucking giving each other socks in there. Okay, folks, thanks very much, and I shall see you again on the next episode of the Grand Torino. Be good to each other. God bless us.